All right, welcome back to another episode of Faith and Freedom. On this episode, I want to contrast uh, two different things. I want to contrast Texas's new abortion policy and make some commentary on that. And I want to compare that to our new federal vaccination policies and some of our state vaccination policies. So, recently in Texas, the state legislative body there passed, I guess, what is known as heartbeat law. So it's about 6 weeks is the cutoff. So when there is a detectable heartbeat, you cannot abort that baby. But it's interesting the way in which they did it. And I don't know if I agree with this. First of all, am not shouldn't say I'm not an incrementalist, but I want to go the full 99 100 yards touchdown with abortion. And for now we'll take it. But what is odd about this law is that the state does not have the power to prosecute illegal abortions. Essentially, they deputized not just Texas citizens, but it's anyone in the country that has sufficient evidence that an abortion has been performed after 6 weeks can bring the law just to bait someone into taking him to court so he could challenge this. So I don't know what Texas was thinking in this. I'm happy that for now it's reducing the number of murdered babies in Texas, but I have concerns about the longevity of this legislation. But that said, let's look at the new policy that the Biden administration has rolled out. They have essentially weaponized OSHA, the Occupational Health and Safety agency within the federal government that oversees workplace safety. Like if there's a fork truck accident at a manufacturing facility, OSHA's going to come in and audit like what went wrong, who did what, and usually issue a bunch of safety violations. Sometimes they do spot checks. They are not a very robustly staffed organization, and there are some big questions in whether or not they have the statutory authority to enforce this type of mandate. But essentially, the mandate is that any employer over 100 employees has to have their employees fully vaccinated or tested weekly. And the tested weekly, the burden of that cost of testing is not set on either side, employer or employee. And probably a lot of employers are going to put it on the employee. Thankfully, most employers, at least in this area, are kind of taking a wait and see position on this, which I think is wise. I think this is going to end up in the court system. Like I said, I think there's some major constitutional issues with it, and hopefully it's challenged in the Supreme Court and struck down on its lack of merit, lack of statutory authority. But we'll see. And there's other state mandates. Kathy Hochul just seems to be the female version of Cuomo, so she is, just as dictatorial about these vaccine mandates, especially for our healthcare workers, our workers working in nursing homes and hospitals. They're not giving them the testing opt out, and I think there's a drop dead date of somewhere in early October where these healthcare employees either get the vaccine or they are fired. And Similar things going on in the education system, although I believe they give educators and faculty the option of weekly testing. Again, I don't know who the responsibility for the cost of testing falls on. And of course, she put her foot down, mask mandates in all New York State schools, which, public schools, it should be up to ideally the school boards. But where I think this law is crossing the bounds is it's getting into private schools. So Caesar schools, what Caesar says in Caesar schools goes. I think that's biblical. I think that is what it is, and we have the option to remove our kids from Caesar schools and put them in private schools. But when these state mandates come down and affect the private schools that people are paying their own money on top of their local school taxes to send their kids through, I don't believe the state has a right to mandate things like masks and vaccinations in those situations. And there's a court challenge on that by some private parties from private schools, some lawmakers, and our former county executive and now state senator George Brello. So hats off to George. But let's compare the two trains of thoughts and the logic and the mentality that are behind both people that support abortion or the murder of babies and support the vaccine mandates, which are essentially coercing or using government agencies to force people to put something in their body against their conscience. And this is largely being pushed by the left political wing in this country. And what they use to justify people's rights to abortion or rights to what they call women's health care, which I don't know how you call it health care, but their justification for that is that a woman should be able to decide what she does with her own body, right? So that argument is obviously flawed to anyone who understands science, who understands human anatomy and pregnancy. Once that child is conceived within that woman, it's no longer just her body. There's another individual there. But let's give them that premise for the sake of our argument here, that that's their body, their choice, and that the government, especially a bunch of men on the Texas legislature, shouldn't have the right to tell a woman what to do with her body. So how do you, on one hand, support that, yet also get behind the government weaponizing OSHA or weaponizing our employers or the state education department or the state of New York, basically making you choose between putting a foreign substance in your body against your conscience? How is that not a violation of the same logic, which essentially boils down to my body, my choice? I don't know how you support, on the one hand, my body, my choice when it comes to women killing their baby, but not my body, my choice when it comes to someone refusing to get an experimental gene therapy that hasn't had any longitudinal long-term test studies done on it put in their body. I don't have an answer for this. My only answer is sin and the depravity of humanity and unrepentant hard hearts who have not been changed by the saving gospel of Jesus Christ. So that is what we're up against. That's what Christians have been up against for the last 2,000 years, is a world that thinks that we are crazy because we have a belief that our bodies are ours and our bodies are devoted to Christ and his work on earth, and that our souls are going to leave our bodies and eventually be judged and live in a new heavens and a new earth. We've been always looked at as the crazy people, but yet the gospel, which is so clear and so beautiful and so true to us, is foolishness to those who are perishing. And that foolishness is not just like ha ha funny court gesture. That foolishness is danger, and that foolishness is animus, and that foolishness manifests itself in hate and contempt for those who stand on the truth of the gospel. So I guess just get used to it. Know who your brothers and sisters are. Stay in the word, encourage each other. Do not forsake the gathering of the saints. Stay in prayer, and God will gather his children. God will build his kingdom. The Holy Spirit through us will advance the gospel, and we know how the story ends. So just hang in there, saints, and stay faithful. Until then, this is Garrett signing off on Faith and Freedom.